Alright, welcome back. Today is video number 35 of the Autodesk 3ds Max 2018 classroom. Today's quarter 2. Welcome to a new quarter. It's week 1, day 1. Today we are going to take an image that is not prepared to be tiled and make it tileable. Alright, that means we're going to have to take a large image, crop down the pieces that we think we can adjust. We're going to fix the lens distortion. We're going to learn about perspective crop. And we're also going to do some offset pixel res and just to see exactly, make sure our center lines up, and then we'll use the healing brush to fix it, and we'll double check it by putting it in the system so we can make sure it looks good. Alright, so let's get started. Open up Photoshop today. We're using CS6, but if you use CC, most of the stuff still applies. Instead of the filter in the NVIDIA folder, you'll have your own filter for normal maps built into CC, but in CS6 you'll be able to follow right along. Go ahead and take the wall file that I gave you, and I'm just going to drag it and drop it in here. So you can see this image is not ideal. Already you can see that if we tile this image, it's not going to look good. The idea behind a tiled image, and you don't have to follow along right now, I'm just showing you. The idea behind a tile image is that you can put it on a wall and it will expand all the way across the wall and look smooth. It'll look like just bricks repeating over and over without any sort of obvious seams. Well, you can see when I tile this image, we have obvious seams like this one right here. This is not what we want. We want it to be smooth and unnoticeable. We've got these bricks here that stand out, and the whole thing is like at an angle. So that's not what we want. Okay, so I'm going to undo that and get back to my original file. Now, the first thing I need to do is I need to turn this, I need to duplicate this layer. So I'm going to actually duplicate background copy, and I'm going to call it source. And we're going to work on this one. We can hide this. This is here just in case we screw something up and we need to come back. So this source image, the first thing we need to do is sort of figure out how we can straighten out these edges. We want this to be straight. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it. And recently I've learned of a new way. As I've said before, I'm not a professional in Photoshop by any stretch of the imagination, but I like to learn new things all the time. So today I'm going to show you something I just learned from some of my students this week. So the fifth tool down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right here is the crop tool. Now if you hold this button down and you go to this tool, the perspective crop tool, it is really, really neat. What we can do is we can actually click anywhere in this area. I'm going to click a large portion here. I'm just going to do the whole thing. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-stretch. I'm going to find a line which I'm going to use this grout line. I'm going to use this grout line as my starting point. Okay, now I'm going to take from that grout line, I'm going to go all the way and see where it ends, which is over here, right there. I'm going to zoom in some more. It doesn't like it when I zoom in this way. But see how I was actually really lucky. I got right on that white line. So what I want to do is make sure I'm going along the top of the white grout line. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to fix the perspective here. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to go all the way down here to the bottom left hand corner. Alright, zooming in, zooming in, zooming in. Now I'm going to move it up to the bottom of this grout line. I'm going to go to the other side. Move up. I'm going to follow that line all the way over. I'm going to move this up so that it's also right along that bottom brick. So I should be able to follow that all the way back over here. And it's pretty much lined up. Okay, cool. Now I can zoom out. So what I've done is I've found a straight line, well, a line that should be straight, and I've drawn along that straight line. Once I have that, I can click OK up here, or I can just hit enter. Click that, and what it does is it straightens out the image. Now this is pretty good. Now we have straight lines, sort of. You'll notice actually up here that it's not quite straight. You can see the top or the bottom of the bricks here, but you can't see any bottom brick here. And that comes from the actual distortion from the lens. Now the lens itself adds distortion to the image because I didn't take this from the center part of the lens and I didn't zoom in at all, and I took it with my phone. So it's going to have some distortion. Now you can see that here it's squeezing down a little bit, and at the bottom it's squeezing up a little bit. So it's squeezing towards the center. Now we can actually fix this with another filter, which is super nice. So filter, lens correction. Now you'll notice that I already have a grid on, you may or may not, and you'll notice that my color is different from yours. I already chose a yellow color. I can't change it now because my grid's not shown. So if you come down here and you show your grid, click there, the grid shows up. Mine is yellow because I'm using it on bricks. White's not so great because you can't see it. But whatever you want to use is fine. I think yellow is a real good choice, at least for this. Obviously, if you're doing I don't know, a little chick, you know, duckling or something, that yellow might be bad. But anyway, moving on. So under auto correction, over here click custom, and what we're going to do is trying to remove distortion. Okay, now we know it's bending down, so it's bending in, so we're going to need to bend it out a little bit. Alright, so all I'm going to do is click on this, and you can slide it all the way up like this, and it makes a real big bubble, or in like that, and it just stretches out. I'm going to get it to the center, and then I'm going to click in this box, and I'm going to press up and down on the keypad, or the number pad. Right? So I'm going to press up because I started at 5, but actually instead I'm going to go to 0, and then I'm going to press down. And you'll notice it starts to straighten out. Now ideally it's going to be just right, and I think my number that is just right ends up being negative 1.5. Negative 1.5 looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. We've got basically straight lines. Maybe turn it down just a hair. No. I think 1.5 looks like it's going to be perfect. Alright, we can also double check if there's any skewing or distortion here. All of these lines are pretty much lining up in a relatively straight way. Looks like this is going sort of down a little bit. It might be distorting that way a little bit. If we wanted to, we could try and adjust some subtle stretching here by squishing the bottom, pressing up and down. Could also align that a little better. This is also a case where it's one of those things where you can adjust it and sort of decide whether or not you feel like that's a good number. You can adjust the size here of this grid, and you can actually move the grid. You can click up here and move the grid, so you can find out exactly where your grid lines are. So this looks pretty straight to me. It seems to be generally pretty straight. So I'm going to so finally my final numbers are remove distortion for me was negative 1.40, and my vertical perspective was negative 5. And I didn't mess with horizontal because it looks pretty straight. Like everything looks pretty straight, even up at the top. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then the scale, obviously I'm going to stick with the scale of 100%. I could zoom in maybe if I wanted to. I could zoom in and start trying to get rid of some of that, but I think 100% is what I'm going to leave it at for now. Alright, so click OK. So now we have a nice straight lined edge. If we took this right now, and you don't have to, but if you want to, for giggles, I'm going to go ahead and create a new tile painting from layer. I'm going to switch to 3D. I'm not going to switch. Once again, don't do this. It's not perfect, but it's way better. If you remember before, we had drastic line problems. Now we still have edges. Like obviously this brick and this brick are not the same, but it looks better because at least the bricks go in a straight line. Hey, that's something. But it's still not perfect, and that's what we want. We want it to be perfect. We want to run by this brick wall and not notice it at all. So that's great. So under source, we still got our source file, so we're still moving along. What we need to do now is we need to select a section of this that is roughly a square. Okay, now we're going to eventually we're going to make it into a binary image, but for now it's rectangular, and that's not good, and we're going to need to make it absolutely square. So I'm going to come up here to my marquee selection tool, and under style it says normal. I'm going to change this to fixed ratio, so my fixed ratio is 1:1. And now I'm going to pick somewhere in the middle of a brick and start dragging out. Now you may or may not be able to see my my marquee selection, but I want to make sure that as I create it and as I pull it out, I've got it to a point where it's coming out and I'm starting in the middle of a brick, I'm ending in the middle of the brick. Alright, so I don't know, yeah, you can probably sort of see that. I can actually move that selection around some. You can see what I've got there. It's not what I wanted to do though. So I've got this selection. I can actually move it around so I can get it to a better spot. So what I want to be in the middle of a brick, right? But I also want to make sure that I take the middle of the brick and I take it as far as the middle of another brick. Now this may not be possible. I may have to change my fixed ratio to something more normal. Because what I'm going to really need is I'm going to need to make sure that I'm getting the same amount of brick on both sides. So if I pick the middle of this brick, right? If I take the middle of this brick, I want to take it, or it's not actually the middle, vertically it's the middle, but horizontally I'm at like 60%. I need to go to roughly 60% across the next brick, right? Which to me looks like right about there. I also want to make sure my grout line is coming out at just the exact same spot. So that means I got to be careful about where my grout line is actually ending. So it looks like I could probably do about there. That looks pretty good. I want to make sure I'm in the middle of both. And I click, I let go. So the key here when you do this is to make sure you're at, what I did is I looked at these grout lines here, these alternating grout lines, this one, this one, this one, this one, and I tried to put it directly in the center. And then over here I tried to do it again. But notice at the top brick, I'm about, on the horizontal plane, I'm about 60% through the brick. Here I'm ending 60% through the brick. So that means it's going to tile well across. Also, what's also extremely important is that the top portion where this grout comes out is right here. And where I'm going to come out, I grabbed the wrong one. We talked about how to do these rulers before. See where the grout comes out? At the bottom of my image, it's coming out in roughly the same spot. Okay, if it's not perfect, that's not going to be a problem. We're going to fix that anyway. But we want to make sure that the grout line is coming out in roughly the same spot. Okay, and that's going to be close enough. I know it's not ideal, but it'll be close enough for us. Alright, great. So now once we have this, we're going to select our source. I'm going to get this out of the way for you. We'll select our source, which is right here, and I am going to image crop. So what I've done is I've cropped down this image just so I can see it. And the reason I did that is because now I have a better understanding and can sort of see where everything's laying out. Now notice my grout lines are almost perfect, so I'm going to have to do very little work when it comes to making those look good, and that's nice. But my my vertical grout lines, not quite as perfect, but we'll get through it. It'll be fine. Mostly that top layer is not great. Alright, anyway, we'll get through it. It'll be cool. So, next. Next thing we need to do is take this and make it a perfectly binary file. That means the pixel density has to be either 1024, 512, 256, or even 2048. Pixels, that's pixels by pixels. So, I'm going to go into image, image size, right here. So, image up here, image size, click on that. Now, my width is 1767 by 1631. We can never go bigger, so I can't go 2048. Even, I mean, if you're really, really close, like 2030, maybe it'd be okay. But generally, I would never go up because you're wasting space and you're just blurring your image. Ideally, you'll always go down. Okay, so from 1767, the closest binary number I have would technically be 2048. But instead, I'm going to go down to 1024 by 1024. Now, you'll notice I have to turn off constrained proportions because my image is not square already. So if I try and change this right now, 1024, it changes to 945, and that's no good. So I've got to turn off this constrained proportions section right here. And then I can type in whatever I want. So 1024 by 1024 and click OK. Now it shrinks it significantly, but it also makes it perfectly square. Now our bricks get shrunk and squeezed so they look smaller, but I'm okay with that because they're bricks. Now if you're dealing with something else like somebody's face, I don't know why you'd want to tile somebody's face, but let's say you did, it would be a much bigger problem. But for our case in this bricks, it's easy. If you're dealing with dirt or rust or something like that, it's even easier. So great. Now we're in pretty good shape. So what we've done is we've created this perfectly square texture, and we've set it so that it comes in and out at the same time. So let's look at where we're at now from our tile painting from layer and see how we look. Now it looks way better, doesn't it? Now if you look close, it's not perfect. We talked about perfection, right? We want perfection. It is not perfect. From a distance, it looks okay. You can see the stripe through there and through there and through there, but it's not terrible from a distance, but we want perfect. So I'm going to undo that again, and now we're going to make it to where it's perfect. So I'm going to take this source image. Now that we have that down, I'm going to change this to let's call it 1024 source. Just changing the name. I'm going to duplicate this by dragging it down into this new layer, and it'll create a copy. And then we'll call this 1024 offset. Okay, because we are going to start there. All right, this is our offset, so it's going to look at our this will be our start for our offset. Our offset is a new filter we're going to use. So go up to filters, make sure you only have the offset selected. We're going up to filter, down to other, over to offset. So once again, it's filter, other, offset. What this does is it's going to offset the image, and we are going to offset it perfectly between itself. So my image is 1024 by 1024. So I need to go halfway across and halfway down. So halfway horizontal, halfway vertical. Now it's in pixels, so I'm going to go 512 by 512. My numbers were already there. But if you have a different image, if you're doing this on your own and you've got an image that's 512 by 512 starting out, then you're going to go 256 by 256. If you have an image that's 32, it'll be 16 by 16. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Now, make sure you have wraparound set, because otherwise the whole image is going to look weird. So set it to wraparound and click OK. Now, what we've done is we've taken the four corners and sort of inverted them. So now we have the line that used to be from edge to edge, like if we have the two images butted up next to each other. Now this line is in the middle. So you can see clearly there's a line here and there's a line here. All right? So that's great. This is our first offset. So I'm going to take this offset and I'm going to duplicate it. This is just so we can see it later. This will help us check our work. So we're going to call this 1024 offset underscore fixed. Alright, great. So this is the actual file we're going to work with. So I'm going to hide these two just so we don't accidentally adjust them. Now to get rid of this, it's really cool that this grout line looks almost perfect. Okay? The grout line's almost perfect, but the rest of it, some other pieces aren't, like this. This will be the hard part. Hard-ish. We'll be fine. But for now, we're going to start fixing it. And the way we fix it, using a tool over here. Now, you might have something called the spot healing brush selected here. It's right under the eyedropper. It's like 6 tools down. Maybe 7. Nope, 6. All right. So I'm going to click on this and go to healing brush. The healing brush is very similar to the clone stamp. The clone stamp, basically, you hold Alt, you click a spot, and then you click. I'll actually use it real quick just so you can see it. If I click this and I click here, I create a copy of that exact image right there. Okay. The healing brush does the same thing, but not only does it do that, but it also sort of blends in the image a little more. So it's really, really helpful. So we are going to do that with these lines. So let's go up to the very top here for the offset fixed image. Make sure you have the right image set. I'm going to click anywhere in this brick, preferably the center. And now I'm going to come over here. Now, also, my brush settings are up here. My brush settings are at 33 pixels, and my hardness is, I'm going to set to 50%. You can adjust this as you need to. like I just accidentally did. 33 is fine. That's a good number. You can adjust it as you feel, but I'm going to hit Alt, click in the middle of this brick somewhere, actually maybe click over here, and then I'm just going to brush in through that. Now you'll notice it starts out as one color, but then it sort of averages to the pixels around it. So already this is looking better. Now you're going to find over and over that if you just select this and start brushing, it's not going to work right. You need to think about what you've selected and where you're brushing, right? Even when it fixes it, it's going to be weird. So I undid that by Control Z. What I do a lot of is think about where this piece is coming from. So let's say I'm going to take this this corner here. I'm going to hold Alt, click on this corner. Then I can click on this corner and blend in the other corner. Okay? So that corner and that corner are basically identical. I undid that because I don't necessarily want to do that there. However, what I do want to do is make sure that this section here, and you can sort of line up where it's going to be, is going to look good right through there. Alright, now I've basically eliminated. Now you got to be kind of careful. You don't want the same image to look too obvious. Same thing sort of here. Obviously I've got a darker brick next to a lighter brick, so I want to sort of blend that in. Now be careful. You don't want, I undid that because I didn't want to get too close. I don't want to get too close to the top, because the top part already tiles really well. So we don't want to mess with that too much. Now you can see that image is basically gone. So I can use that even up till there. There. Now once again, I don't want to mess with the actual bricks that are on the edge. Okay, so I'm going to just keep going down this brick line here by selecting more. Now it's better to not always select bricks that are right next to where you're fixing it, because then people, if they're really paying attention, which usually they won't, but if they are, we don't want them to be able to see where our magic hand has been, right? So I'm going to select this part here. I'm going to use that to sort of fix this part. There. Now you can spend a lot of time on this and make it look really good, but for the general, that's not a good choice. See why that's not a good choice? Because that's a straight line, like an obvious copy paste sort of situation. We don't want that. We want something a little more generic. So I'm going to click down there and use that as my starting point. And then same thing here. You can even click right there. We're just trying to get rid of this line to make it a little less obvious. Yeah, cool. Identifiers that are obvious like that, we want to sort of avoid. Once again, I can click this brick here, sort of decide on that. Now you'll notice that as I do this, I'm also getting a good portion of the image itself. So I'm getting a good portion of the corner and the grout. So the grout's getting sort of blended in as well, because my because my decision here is at 30, or my brush is at 33 size. Now the middle portion and this middle line is the hardest part, okay, because it's obviously not lining up, and we're going to have to sort of decide which brick we want to go with. I'm going to actually create a whole new grout line on my own here, and it's probably going to be, let's go further away. Let's get this one. Let's get that one. That looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this grout line here. Okay, actually I'm going to grab this corner. I like corners. Corners are nice, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find the average. So let's say the average is here. I'm going to basically create a whole new brick through there. And when I let go, it sort of blends it in. Here, I'm going to do the same thing. Oops, I need to make sure I choose a better brick, like one down here that doesn't have a seam in it. That way it's not as obvious. But you can see I've already basically fixed that one. Now be careful, you don't want to use the same brick over and over, and you always want to sort of decide where your brick is going to be. I like making sure I'm getting basically the average of the two. There we go. That looks better. Now it's not ideal because I've got this problem here, but I think I can fix that. I'm going to maybe choose this brick here and make sure I'm going like this. There, looks pretty good. I use this brick maybe to sort of corner that one out a little better. There. And I fix the brick up so it's a little less obvious, that line. There. So you can see that I've basically fixed this brick. Now, you can fast forward to the end. I'll probably be doing this for at least another minute or two if you want. It's not really a hard process. It's just one of those, that turned out bad. Alright, let's see. Edit, undo, step backwards, Control Alt Z. That's what I thought I hit. There we go. I'm going to use this brick here. I gotta be careful though, because I need to, if I use that. There. Alright, great. So, let's keep fixing bricks. The middle brick, like I said before, is probably the one that's the most difficult to fix. I'm going to use that one here and hope that nobody notices. Let's do this. Alright, cool. See how it blends it in? Man, that tool is super cool. It's really nice. It basically just eats that line right up. I'll get rid of that by doing this. Move that through there, and it's going to be pretty much perfect. Alright, so we've got the next section here. I'm going to click on this and get our last brick. Let's get a brick from really far away, like maybe down there. That's good. This will be our brick that we do here. I would say our average line should be right there-ish. So I'm going to do that through there and just blend it right through. Just like that. Just like that. So now, once again, I can get a different brick, maybe from over there, sort of blend this in, not getting too close to the edge. I can even use that brick over and over. You want to be careful because people start to notice if you get a little too obvious with it. Alright, so you can see where we're going. It's looking pretty good. I fixed that main line in the center. I don't see where the line is. We'll double check here in a second. As of right now, it's starting to look pretty good. Do some of that. Grab this brick here. Do some of this. Right, maybe grab some of this brick here and do some of that. A little bit of blur. Right, maybe grab this brick there. I don't even see the line anymore. That's kind of the problem. Sometimes it's hard to see where your line went. I think that was it. Oh, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. How about this brick here? We'll go there. Love this tool. It is so useful. It's really just insane how fast this becomes because it blends things in so well. Before with the clone stamp tool, we would have had to take a lot more time and make sure we're blending this file together. But now it's just like, nope, let's do it. Click it, go. And then it automatically averages in. We could spend a lot of time here. I'm trying to go sort of quick, so you'll forgive me if it's not as beautiful or as it maybe could be, but I think you get the idea of how this works, and that is the main reason for these videos. So there, I think that's good. Now, that's our file. That's our offset fixed. Now the cool part is I'm going to click this offset here, the offset before it was fixed, and I'm going to hide the offset fixed. See that? That's before, after. Before, after. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hide the offset, and I'm going to do the window or the 3D tiled painting real quick. No. And now here it is. Here's our final image. Now, you'll notice I don't see any problems at all except for this weird hot brick right there. That's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? We could fix that. So I'm going to undo, Control Z, but we're almost done. So we're going to undo that, go back into our actual image. Now where was that hot brick? Right there. So let's kill it. It's too hot. It's too much. So let's get our tool back out. Select any brick, really. Let's blend out that hot part. Make sure we can get from multiple spots. Get a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No, it's like an amalgamation of like 10 bricks. This one too, maybe a little too obvious for our taste. Maybe a little too colorful. All right. Blend those out. Whoa. Don't be lazy. There we go. Get a little of that one. Get rid of that. All of that. Blend that stuff out. Maybe I don't like that. Make it a little, just make it a little more generic, right? Right. That looks kind of obvious to me. Now that looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Maybe blend some of this one in. See that? And get rid of that. There. All right, great. So I think that's it. Let's look at it again. Take just that top file. Go to, where were we? 3D, new tiled painting. No, I don't want to change my workspace because I just want to look at it real quick. Perfect. That looks really, really good. There's no obvious lines in the material. This grout line and this grout line are kind of bright, but whatever. You're going to have that. From far away, it looks like you've got some hot spots, but generally, it's pretty good. I think I'm pretty happy with it. I hope you are too, and I hope you sort of had the same sort of experience. I want to undo this. So now we've got our 1024 offset fixed. I'm going to go File, save this for web. It's already going to be set to 1024, which is what we want. So we're going to go to Save, and I'm going to, I have a million of these images because I've been redoing it over and over. I'm going to call this, yeah, let's call it Kroom's Wall. Let's do that. No, let's call it 1024. 1024 wall. Tile. Tileable. Alright. Alright, cool. I don't know if that's spelled right. Doesn't matter. Cool. Cool. So we have this set. We've got our brick wall texture. It is ready to go. I will see you tomorrow. But we'll take this, turn it black and white, make sure the white and the black are inverted probably, and then we will turn it into a normal map. That actually is a much, much faster video. So the hard part's over. Actually, we've probably done most of the work today. This is most of the work we're going to do. Tomorrow, much shorter. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial on how to set this up. I hope you have a nice smooth tiling wall, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.